Jai Shri Ram, welcome to Astrology with Abhilasha. Today we are doing the video on transit of Saturn into Aquarius, and we'll deal with all the ascendant in this video itself. As in the Jupiter transit video, I've told you that there are multiple parameters from which you can check the transit of a particular planet. In that video, I added that the dispositor of moon in your chart can be that point from which you should see the transit. In this video, I will add the second point from where one can see the transit of a planet in their chart, except from your ascendant and your moon. You can check the dispositor of your ascendant lord in D9. Go to the D9 chart, check where your ascendant lord is sitting, which planet becomes the dispositor of this ascendant lord at D9. Come to D1, check where this dispositor is sitting, make that your ascendant, and then see the chart from there for the transit purpose. That is another point which I want to add. By this way, you can have a holistic view of the transit. And for astrology learners, this is a very good tip to understand which makes a better result giving dynamic to test, right? You can test which point to use to actually understand the transit better. You can have a comparative overview. Now, as Saturn, we all know, we have heard this multiple times. It teaches us stability, patience. It delays things which he has to offer us in our chart just for making us realize the true value of whatever we are achieving in our life. All right. That's why things like Saturn return or Sadesati is deemed very crucial in one's life, because that is make or break point in anyone's chart. So we understand what Saturn is, what are the true nature of planets. We have gone through several videos. Even if you want to understand the nature of Saturn, you can look at my Darakarak video of Saturn. That also gives you a very fair analysis of this particular planet. One thing is very sure about Saturn, that it does delay, but it never denies the result it is bound to give you, whether it is good or bad. That depends on the chart you have and Dasha Mahadasha. Now, I have heard people saying that transit doesn't matter at all. Even I believe that transit in general, a general prediction for transit doesn't make much sense, because everybody have their own horoscopes, their own dasha, etc. going on, their own balabal of planets, the strength of planets in particular chart, which actually can maneuver the results of transits for each individual. But in spite of saying this, I believe transit make a great impact on everybody's chart. So we cannot negate the effect of transit while making predictions. Many learned astrologers I've interacted with have marked the value of transit pretty low in their prediction parameter. But I believe that is the first cause of failed prediction, when you completely ignore the importance of transit. In spite it being a generalized video, if you know a bit of astrology, You can actually make this video very useful for yourself, depending on your particular horoscope or for whomever you are seeing this video for. Because even if you know a bit of astrology, you can understand what extent of result will come to pass and what will not, if you are able to, combine the things I'm going to tell with the particular combination of the horoscope. All right. So please do not ignore the effect of transit. Just do not ignore any rule which you deem is much more useful in mundane astrology or anything, because astronomy is the base of astrology. How can you just say that an astronomical event, which is like changing a planet, changing the sign, can be of no importance? I find it really funny. All right, that is all. So let's go and start the video. And I will be starting this video with the ascendant of Aquarius, because Saturn is transiting Aquarius 15th May 2022 up till 26th June 2022 is a small patch when Saturn enters Aquarius. As you all know, we use Chandrahari and Amsha, so the date may differ from Lahari. So please adhere with it. And later, it will come back again to Capricorn. Then in 24th January 2023 to 4th April 2025, it will again re-enter Aquarius. So now understand the beauty of this planet Saturn, that it does give us multiple opportunities to rectify, to have a small preview of what this planet is going to deliver us for a complete span of 2 years. All right. So this transit from May to June is a small preview which will give you a hang of this transit, and it will prepare you what is coming ahead. So you will have small window of time period from June 22 to January 23 to make certain changes and amend things which you are doing not in a very righteous manner, to have the full gain from this transit of Saturn in Aquarius, because Saturn crossed Capricorn, his own sign, and entered Aquarius again, which is his own sign, and it also becomes his own Rashi and his own Mool Trikon as well. So, this is a very important time when you can redefine the effect of Saturn in your chart. Because as we all know, what I have learned with my interaction with my husband, Shubham as well, who's a very learned astrologer, that Mool Trikon becomes the birth place of a planet. So when it again enters Aquarius after 30 years, we can amend certain things in a life. All right, so Aquarius ascendant, you will be having the transit of Saturn in your first house. Now, this is a disclaimer. Whenever we talk about a malefic planet, there are bound to be negatives and positives. So please take it as a precautionary stride and just don't get disheartened, because you can have a full space of remedies to curb down the negative effects, and also remedies to be used to make the good effect more prominent in your life. So there is always a solution to every kind of problem in this world. So please don't lose heart if there is something harsh or very to the point in this video. Saturn during its transit to the first house restricts the individual in all spheres of life, because Saturn is here to teach you the power of restriction. We all know there is always immense power in freedom. But if you have learned the power of restriction, of restraint in your life, that is the time when you can actually enjoy all of the freedom in your life. Because then you are incapable of making mistakes. Along with freedom, there come a lot of chance that you can go astray and make terrible mistakes in your life, unless and until you understand the power of and the balance which you have to strike. With freedom, there should be some restrictions also. So here, Saturn in your first house will teach you the importance of restrictions in life, which will be in every way. Your bodily health, your mental capacity, people around you, your occupational field, the efforts you're going to make, your partnerships. These are the 3 points which will be triggered when Saturn transits your first house for Aquarius ascendants. During this period, it is generally seen that the individual experience a kind of internal separation from things around them. Now, this is very interesting. I have seen whenever Saturn transits your ascendant, there is a lot of chance that you enter into a relation, into partnerships. But this is not a very good time to do so. So please, if a very lucrative offer comes your way, whether it's a marriage proposal, whether it's partnership, be very watchful and calculative. Because as soon as Saturn will transit Pisces and aspect the 8th house, you will come to know the real truth and the face of that relation or partnership. So please be aware of that. It can, because of the isolation it will create, it can make you depend on few people in your life, which is again trying to tell you and teach you that being self-reliant, being your own best companion is of utmost priorities in today's time. All right. You can feel gloomy, a bit reluctant to make efforts. You might get multiple opportunities, but Saturn throwing his aspect on the 3rd house will make you reluctant to actually go forward and take action. That can be because of the amount of efforts a particular task is asking from you, which can deter you from going ahead. But that is just a facade. You should understand. Make that effort, give that fight, and you will see how luck will support you. Extra effort is demanded during this time. I know Aquarius ascendant has just gone through Saturn in the 12th house. So you must have felt the vibrations of this planet already, because it was approaching your ascendant. But mind my words, take this duration of isolation, seclusion as a plus point and work on yourself. This is the most appropriate time for people of Aquarius ascendant to work on themselves to achieve what they actually deserve and desire. Now, there can be some disturbing social events in your life which can actually make you furthermore cautious and very reluctant to socialize. But be cautious and sail through it. There can be a lot of desire to gain material prosperity. And Saturn transit in Aquarius is obviously much more different than any other sign. So the sign of Aquarius is also the natural 11th house of the Kalpurush Kundi. So whatever desire this Saturn going to fulfill in your life will be for a long span of time. But if you deserve 100, this might give you only 60%. But that 60% gonna stay for a very, very long time. And you're gonna relish it like anything. But that needs 200% of efforts as well. Saturn is all about pulling you out from your comfort zone. It is that kind of a parent who will scrutinize every action of yours, irritates you throughout the day, nagging you for every small action you take or every small bit you do. But it will actually create a great foundation. And those who have Saturn in Aquarius, this is furthermore very important for you because you are also going to experience your Saturn return. Maybe it's your first cycle or your second. If it is your first cycle, this can be a breakthrough period for you. I totally have seen this, experienced it, that Saturn return gives you a plethora of opportunities, but you have to pick the right one. So that is the test. All right. So that is all which I have to say for Aquarius ascendant. Effort, your third house, your 10th house, and your 7th house. You have to be very cautious in these three matters. Effort will totally translate the good you can reap in your field of occupation, whether it's a business or a job, and whatever you do there will totally translate into your 7th house. So you have to make a good equation to balance these three houses in your chart during this time. And because it's transiting your ascendant and making these houses activated, you are the sole responsible person for every action which happen in these three houses. So nothing can be better than this when you are the only responsible person for every event that's gonna happen in your life. And if it is a Saturn return, Saturn is actually declutching you from the restrictions and giving you much more leverage. So you should not miss this chance. Otherwise, Saturn in Pisces can make you regret that. All right. But keep track of your health, keep a check of your vitals, all the regular yearly tests, whatever age you are, especially if you are 50, 60 plus, you should be very cautious about all your vitals. But even if you are 30 year and you are having a Saturn return, be very watchful of your health. And if you're an Aquarius ascendant as well, because this health can actually be the restriction which can actually hold you from giving your 200% to every opportunity coming your way. Take good decisions. This is the time to act and not to procrastinate, right? So that is for Aquarius ascendant. Now, I will move on to Capricorn. So for Capricorn, Aquarius is transiting your second house. Whether Saturn sits in a natal chart in the second house, whether in transit, it is bound to disturb the harmony of the family. But there is a saving grace for every ascendant during this transit because Saturn is transiting his own house. But still, you cannot escape the nature of this planet. You might dissolve some of your fixed assets. You will not feel very creative during this time. There can be some kind of a confusion in making a concrete decision. You would also love to interact much less than what you usually used to do. There can be some distortion in the way of your eating habit, which can actually impact your health. Please be very watchful of it, what you eat during this period. Avoid high salt intake. Avoid any junk. Try to have everything home cooked. Try to be as interactive as you can because Saturn in second house gives you a tendency of being an introvert. But you have to make a balance of it and be as interactive as you can. This period of Saturn transit can also, dismantle something which was going in a very stable manner. That can be your income as well. So there can be a bit of tweaking in the kind of stability in the matter of income. So you have to make a reservoir of finances, of liquid cash, because, this is a small transit of May to June. Then you have a good period of June to January 23 to make that reservoir of money to sail through this period. Okay. But still, there can be high chances of dissolving some assets. But if you are into a family business, or you're trying to take up some business prospect in your life, you can start something which can turn into a legacy during this time. It can make you a bit ungrateful as well. Saturn's transit in the second house. Because how much or whatever amount you can get at this time for Capricorn ascendant, you will feel that you are deserving of more. That's a very interesting attribute of Saturn transits your second house. It can also make you see some uninvited event at your family front. You might have to attend some sad or some ceremonies which one would not like to be a part of, like passing away of a very dear one. Okay. But be prepared for it. For spiritual aspirants, people who are interested in spirituality, this is again a very good transit. You can use tantra and mantra for relieving you from any kind of disease during this time. You can do a mantra chant even for your family member during this time. It will be very effective. Try to donate as much of water. You can also get a water tank established near a temple or so during this transit. It will give you a very good result. Donation of food is a very good remedy for these people, Capricorn people who are having Saturn transit in the second house. You should be very contemplative during this time and maintain your sensitivity quotient, because Saturn transit in second house can make you very sensitive to criticism. This is equally applicable if you have Saturn in your second house. These people are very judgmental about the criticism they receive. So be very open-hearted and just take it in a good stride. Now you can think of renovating your household, but it will not turn it from what you expect, like what you expect. All right. This transit can also hinder your regular income, which I already told you, that there can be some dip in the kind of income you're receiving. So you have to create a reservoir for that. Now, again, this is very interesting for Capricorn ascendant, as Saturn sitting in second house is activating your 8th house and also activating the sign of Scorpio. So again, I am re-emphasizing that this is a very good time to do a remedy for Capricorn ascendant. And when your ascendant Lord itself is transiting a good position in your chart, that is the time when you can actually reap good result for any kind of remedy. Lagna Lord in second in the natal chart give a form of fame which is not equivalent to, you say, materialistic gain, but it gives you a kind of fame which is like a goodwill in the society. So this is again the case in transit created. So that can also be a result, that you can get a jump in the goodwill you have in the society. You can encash that also. That is all for Capricorn ascendant. Now let's go to Sagittarius. For Sagittarius ascendant, Saturn is transiting your 3rd house. As we all know, a malefic transiting the 3rd house is considered good. And in this case, when this planet Saturn is transiting its own house, is again an ended point. This transit is auspicious in results. Sagittarius people can get and acquire materialistic gifts, increased possibility of being socially influential. There will be upsurge in your affluence. if you work hard and take calculated steps. The trial and tribulation which you had when Saturn was in second house are now actually going to give you results. You might have incurred some ancestral property or some great chunk of money ancestrally when it was transiting your second house. Now is the time to reallocate this money. Okay, so be very cautious and take calculated decisions so you can actually reap the good benefit of this transit of Saturn in your third house. Your perseverance, which you showed when it was transiting your second house, now it's the time to reap the result of that. There can be a change in your lifestyle for better. This is the time, whenever Saturn transits the third house, that is the time when you have a shift in your social standard of living as well. There will be a transition in your lifestyle and it will be for good. All the impediments, all the obstacles will be removed during this time. You can turn up your creative juices and be very productive during this time. Though for everything you start during this time, you will have the results or the gains from that with a kind of delay. But that will be for a long period of time. So delay is evident, but the gains, the affluence, the rewards are also promised. So please don't hesitate from taking actions, show your valor and capture the moment. There will be new alignments in life and expansion in your materialistic gains. New income sources are the result of this favorable transit of Saturn in the third house. You can also take a decision in terms of if you want to learn something new, if you're a student and trying to find a good stream to take admissions into, this is a very good time to do so. You can take advice from your co-bonds during this time. This transit of Saturn in the third for Sagittarius ascendant can be a bit taxing for your co-bonds, your siblings, especially if they are married. Then also some kind of turbulation can be seen in their married life because of this transit. So if you see that, you are the person who can do the remedy for them during this time. This is very important. Then it can affect your father. Maybe this is the time when your father is taking his retirement or going through an end of an era kind of a scenario. This can be that time. Luck will favor you only if you put in your 100% of grit and effort into anything which you are uptaking. Now, Saturn is also expecting your 12th house. This can make you go or visit a hospital on any pretext. Maybe you are visiting a friend or a family member, or you're just visiting a hospital to donate something. This can be that time period in your life. If you're trying to travel, this can be a good time to do so, though it will take a much more push to initiate the plans of travel. But once you do so, it would be good. If you're going out for a long-term relocation, please take blessings of your elders. If they are a bit uncomfortable in this relocation, just try to make them understand the importance of this and then do so, or just be a frequent visitor to them. Just do not disappoint them and do any activity in your life during this time period, especially. So you have to take care of that. That is for the ascendant of Sagittarius. Now, for the ascendant of Scorpio. So Scorpio must have gone through a lot during the last couple of years, though they must have gained a lot of things, but an equal amount of grievance must have stuck them as well. So the happy and sad portion would have been in a balance, to say the least, for Scorpio ascendant. Now again, Saturn transiting your your fourth house. Be very cautious of your fixed assets, your property, your vehicle, your mother. There can be some disturbance in these spheres, but there will always be a saving grace, like your mother might fall ill or experience some deterioration in health, but eventually you will find a solution and she will be fine. Similarly, you can uptake a renovation task for your house, which midway you might feel is a heavy task you've chosen, or the timing was off for that. But then eventually in longer run, you will feel that you did a right thing to do so. Now, it will also give you an instinct to do something in the field of your occupation. You would like to change it. You would like to learn something new to add up in your profile. So this is a good time. If you make a change in your profession during this time, be sure that you want to do it for a really long time. Please do not change your job, shuffle your business, thinking that you will just encash the opportunity for the time being and will be able to change it again very soon. That will not be the case. So be very sure that whatever changes you're bringing will be for a long span of time. This position of Saturn can make you leave home, shows a separation from your family. It can be on the pretext of job. You might get married and move out. This can be the reason. Now, health will also be a concern for you during this time, especially stuff like delusion, headaches, migraines can crop up during this time. You have to be very careful about that. Be a vigilante of your health during this time. Peace of mind is taken away. And that cannot only be said in a negative tone. You might get so busy, or something new just enters up in your life and makes you so busy and bursting with energy that you feel that the serenity, the laid back attitude is just gone for a toss, and you're just totally engrossed in the materialistic world. That can also be a seed. Or you just have taken up the gloomy side of this transit and you become totally isolated in your own community as well. So peace of mind, relationships are disturbed. Psychologically, you have to be very strong. Generally, I suggest whenever Saturn transits your fourth house, you take up something which is attached to the cultural root you're born into. Try to unravel your root of birth and look the world in a bigger picture. So this will give you a lot of sense of balance, and it will also keep you grounded during this time of a bit of turbulence psychologically. It can also generate some fear in your heart, which are just there in your mind, and they are nothing more than fragment of imaginations, but this can cause that. There can be some sour relation with your mother, but understand that without saying this is gonna be your fault and you have to make up to it. This is a very good time to realize and make up to the negatives you might have done. So be very cautious about what you expect from a relation. Be very cautious what you are giving and what you expect. There have to be a balance. The giving portion should always be on a higher level than the expectations. That's the key of any good relation, whether it's parental as well. Married life can also see some fights, but just shut down your ego. That's what Saturn is telling you here. Be as much pure of heart as possible. Though Saturn's presence in fourth house itself show that whatever thoughts you're having are not that pure. So that is the fight of this transit in your fourth house. That you have to be self-introspective and be very, judgmental about your own thoughts and wishes, how it is impacting your own life and the people around you, your own community. That is the fourth house. Your own circle, that is the fourth house. So be very watchful about it. Don't be a greedy prick. All right. People who are having a weak moon as well in the chart, along with this transit of Saturn in fourth house, should definitely try out meditation to absorb this energy and just not get drowned into gloominess or negativity. So please be prepared and take certain actions to uplift your mental plane. Attachment from materialistic objects can become more intense. So that is again a fight you have to be in, not to be attached with the materialistic things around you. Now, going to the ascendant of Libra. For Libra, this transit of Saturn is becoming in the fifth house. Now, whenever, either in the natal chart or in transit, you can say this, that if Saturn is in fifth house, This person is highly insecure about their position in social life. They are just after securing a great position in their life. That is their sole aim. That is also in the materialistic realm. I can just recall a chart who is a Gemini ascendant but have Saturn in the 5th house. In spite of being in the top notch of bureaucratic circuit, that person is still very insecure about the position they have acquired after rigorous learning, after rigorous giving of examinations. The position they have secured, they're still not sure about it. They're still very insecure about it. And they think that they are deserving of much more. So this transit of Saturn in your 5th house makes you feel that you deserve much more out of your social network. You deserve much more acclaim for whatever you do in the society. But you have to understand that this can be just a thought which you have about yourself. If you work hard, whatever you deserve automatically comes your way. But then again, Saturn will test you a lot before giving you out the gains. That is the 11th house, especially for Libra ascendant. When Saturn sitting in the 5th house aspects the sign of Leo, which falls in the 11th house, makes sure that you receive the recognition in your life during this time. But for that, you have to become that extra laborious person. For achieving that share of honor, which is depicted by the 5th house and the sign of Leo, which are getting activated in togetherness, you have to make that extra effort. Now, Saturn sitting in the 5th house is also expecting your 7th house. So you might enter a relation during this time, or if you're already into a relation, the bonds are getting to get very strong. All right. Sometimes Saturn in the 5th house also give you a break in relations. But for Libra ascendant, I will not say so, because as you all know, Saturn is always in a good disposition in this chart of Libra ascendant, and it is again transiting its own sign. So that is also good. And again, as we see that it is the lord of the 4th house coming to the 5th house, which again creates a good combination. So that is all fine with this. But the wealth of this individual who is having the transit of Saturn in the 5th house will decline. So you have to make good investments. This can also be the case that you are actually taking up a task where all of your investment is going, but in the coming run, when Saturn will come to Pisces, you will see that you did a good decision. You took a good decision of investing into certain things. This can again make you antisocial and introvert. There can be certain streak of frustration also, but you can manage it if you consciously try and curb this tendency, which Saturn in your 5th house is giving by aspecting the 7th and the 11th. Both of these houses denote a section of social circle in your life. So this Saturn is gripping both of them. So you have to be cautious about that. Saturn is again aspecting your 2nd house. So as I told you, there can be a constraint in your liquid income. So be very watchful of that, plan accordingly. You will have a hint of it during this coming 2 months of May and June. So please plan accordingly for that. There can be a feeling of being deserted by your family members. So that can be because you yourself become so aloof. And when a person tries to, or actually in their behavior become aloof, people around them in today's scenario generally leave them on their own, because we all today know the importance of personal space. So please don't give people around you the wrong signal that you don't value them around yourself. So be very thoughtful of the relation you have in your life, and thankful as well. Don't be ungrateful during this time. So there also can be a sort of spiritual awakening for Libra ascendant. This position of Saturn in the 5th house again ensures that you can do a remedy or mantra chanting. It will give you result, but with a lot of efforts. But this is also a good position for remedy and mantras, because Saturn here is in his own sign. Otherwise, a malefic in the 5th house is not very good for the ritual you do as a remedy. But this being the own sign, it can be good. Now for Virgo ascendant. So for Virgo ascendant, this transit gonna be in the 6th house. Now here, it is a very powerful situation. It enables the individual to show his proneness in taking decisions and action. It is a very good time where you can conquer the difficulties which you have in your life. You can actually work upon your body to resist diseases. You can counteract some tendencies which you really wanted to overcome, which were negative in your life, and you wanted to get rid of them. This can be a transit which can help you in your efforts. Sometimes we make effort to do a certain thing, or just drive ourselves away from a negative habit we have, but the situations around us don't give us that kind of leverage. But when Saturn transits your 6th house, you have the complete power to overcome that and rebuild your personality. During the transit of 6th house, Saturn effectively blocks adverse karmic effect as well. If you think that there is a lot of karmic baggage in your chart, and more or less you are living a life of your previous actions, which are very heavy, and you do not find a valid, concrete reason for whatever is happening in your life, and you think that you are not the person who deserves all this, The transit of Saturn in the 6th house can actually relieve the clutches of karmic backlog and can greatly accentuate the fructification of your Kriyaman karma, whatever you did in this life. So if you think you did the good part, you're gonna get good result during this transit. But if you think you messed it up, be very cautious, because Saturn in the 6th house makes sure what you sow, so shall you reap. Okay. Discord in material life will be removed. If you want something materialistic during this transit, it will be fulfilled. If you are interested in austerities on self, like taking up a fast or following a strict regime, you can do this. You can do that in this transit. But whatever results I'm telling, it can change if this transit of Saturn is happening on your moon. If you are having your moon in Aquarius and you are a Virgo ascendant, then these results will change. Then you have to be very mentally strong to bear with it. If you have your moon in a sign ahead or behind, like in Capricorn, you have your moon, or in Pisces, you have your moon, and your Saturn is transiting Aquarius, then you have to be very cautious. The result, the good result, will be reduced by the percent of 50. There is a chance of you relocating, acquiring a new residence. Some of Virgo ascendant might have already done in the recent month or so, or will be doing that, a change of residence. That would also be to a better environment. You can also gain some kind of authority and power in your office or your workplace. But if a planet is present in the 6th house, then these results can change. All right. And if a planet is situated for Virgo ascendant, if a planet is situated in the 2nd house, then also these results can change. Okay. You should always see the house 9th from the transiting Saturn. If that house is occupied by a planet, then the results change in combination with that planet. Especially if it is moon, you will experience some sort of mental disturbances, in spite of this transit being really good for you. Now, let's move on to few things I want to add for Virgo ascendant. That Saturn is aspecting your 9th house. So please don't rely on luck for the most part of it, rather than rely on your own valor. You can, if you are trying to curb down your expenses, this will naturally do so. It will naturally curb down your expenses. And whatever action, whatever effort you're going to make during this time, it will take some kind of extra energy for you to initiate that. Again, even for Virgo ascendant, your sibling can experience some kind of issues of health during this time. So be very cautious about that. And the health issues can be such which are not very easy to diagnose. And it can also be just in their mentality and not affecting them in the actual physical body. But they will experience that they are not able to give it the fullest because of the constraint they're having due on their health. All right. Okay, now moving forward to Leo. For the ascendant of Leo, this transit is gonna be one of the most disturbing one. You have to hone the energy of Saturn transiting your 7th house. It can take a toll on your marriage, on your relation, on your public image, it can be not that big an impact because again, Saturn is in own sign, that is the saving grace. But still, especially when Saturn will transit your 7th house, it will be along with the transit of Mars, which is already there. So that is the very crucial point of time, like from 15th of May to 20th of May for Leo ascendant, gonna be very crucial. Avoid any kind of fight or social turbulence you would desire to enter during that time. Be very cautious of that. All right. If you're having a tiff or a case with the state, like any government entity, you're having a case with them, be very cautious during this time. Try to extend the date. If you have a court date during this time, just extend it. Don't, have a hearing during this time of 15th to 20th of May. And even during this transit, be very cautious, fill in your papers correctly, fill in your taxes very truthfully. Otherwise, this can be a trap for you, this transit. Saturn during this transit in the 7th house tries to destroy or make a situation of upheaval in your personal arena, your mental peace. The person will always be on a move. This is a high chance of transit of Saturn in 7th house that you can get relocated, or you will try to move out of your current residence. This is the time. There will be an inner hunger. You will not be satisfied from whatever you have currently in your life. So dissatisfaction can take a toll on you, and it can also instigate you to take a wrong decision. Many decisions of cutting ties with your family and spouse happen during this transit because it provokes you. The transit of Saturn in 7th house provokes you to do so, but be very mindful of that and avoid it at all costs because you're gonna regret it in the coming time. If the time gets really tough, just leave the situation for a while. Leave that wherever you're present, whichever situated you are into. Try to move out of that situation for a couple of months and just let it in status quo, and then come back to it once Saturn crosses your ascendant degree in transit. All right, be very cautious about it. There can be a lot of confusion. Inferiority complex can take over you. You will like to keep company of people who you generally don't admire otherwise in your life. Like this is a time when a person can actually fall trap of a bad company. So be very watchful of people whom you are allowing to enter in your life. Okay. They can have ulterior motives. Rigorous testing of your patience will be done during this time. That can be by the hands of your spouse as well. So be as much forgiving as you can during this time period. Because Saturn is transiting your 7th house. It is equivalent of Saturn transiting the ascendant of your spouse. Okay. It can affect their health as well. During the transit, when Saturn and Mars are together, like 15th of May to 10 days around, end of May, 15th and 30th of May, visiting a doctor if it is impending, please don't avoid it and do it as soon as possible. Try to avoid travel during this time. And even if you're traveling, you should not travel along with a partner. This can end you up in a great fight, which can take a toll on your relation. So try avoiding these 15 days of traveling together. If you're making any plan of travels with your partner, with your spouse, even if you're a business partner or making a business deal, try to avoid these dates. All right. That is for Leo ascendant. Though this is a good time to unravel some mysteries, if you have a impending thing of property diversification or distribution of property is pending at your home, this can be a time when you can initiate it. Be very cautious about it because there can be some hidden things which are kept away from you. Be very cautious before signing any paper. Read them twice, thrice, keep them for a day, read them again the next day, and then sign them. Do not rush. Okay. But if you want to have a division of property at your place, this is the right time when you can initiate it and the result will actually happen. There can also be an urge for you to travel, as I said, but be very cautious about it. It will not give you the result you actually desired out of it. You have this transit can be a bit of ordeal for you. Please chant Mrityunjay mantra as much as you can and just win over it. There can be some portal of divine wisdom open for you during this time. Try to tap into that energy and just stay aloof what is going around you during this time. Now for the ascendant of Cancer. Saturn is transiting your 8th house. Now, as we all know, whenever Saturn is transiting the 8th house, the individual experiences separation from near and dear ones. There can be some loss of money, which is totally unprecedented for you. You might have done an investment which will, in return, won't give you the result you expected. You will understand the true importance and your role in this world is much more than only materialistic gains which you are running after when Saturn was in your 7th house. You might have incurred a lot of property during this time. You could have also gone for a vehicle when Saturn was transiting your 7th house. But right now, when Saturn will come to the 8th house, you will understand that how meaningless all of that was, all of that commotion was, and you will realize the true intensity of the Saturn in the 8th house. There can be some detrimental episodes with your children, so be very cautious about them. Just check whose company they are keeping. Be as close as possible to them. Just don't leave them on their own. Be watchful and rigorously checking their whereabouts. Be very cautious during this transit. Okay. People who are expecting during this time should also be very cautious. Keep a regular tab with your doctor and maintain your health. Try to eat as much healthy as you can, because this transit of Saturn in the 8th house can also show some hidden diseases which can crop up to the surface during this time. Now, the restriction implied on the native during the transit of Saturn in the 8th house actually is aimed to teach the lesson of patience and perseverance for you in the matters of 8th house. That is, if you're trying to learn something, you will not get a hang of it very easily. If you are trying to incur an ancestral belonging, this time can actually test you. There can be a time where you would feel that you have lost a lot of patience and time, but then eventually things will turn out good during the end phase of this transit. The forward period is going to be of success and attainments, especially in the field of occult. If you are trying to do a siddhi or something, this can be a good time. You can get the control of the forces of nature during this time, and can also discover the hidden faculties of your mind during this time. If you actually know how to channelize the power of Saturn, you will be able to do all of that. Again, keep a check on how much you are spending around. Don't splurge during this time. There can be some change of idea and thought in relation to your occupation during this time. There can be a change in your social status during this time. And also you will feel that you are not that creative anymore during this time. Your creative power, the power of production. There is a tab we keep that, okay, we produce this much during a month, a day, a year. That's gonna be a bit low from the previous months and years for you. So you have to work extra hard for that. Okay. Now for the Gemini ascendant. Gemini ascendant, Saturn is transiting in the 9th house. You can feel greatly uncertain during this time of taking a concrete action. Whether there is a call for a decision, you have to make shift in your occupation. You might have to make a shift from being a job holder to a businessman. There will be a lot of contemplation going on during this time. There will be some loss of moral support of your elders during this time. They will not be as present for you as you would like to guide you during this time. Some obstacles can be seen, but your efforts can maneuver them. So be very calculative of what kind. Do not only rely on your luck, you have to rely on your valor. There can be some not so concrete incident in your father's life. You can be a bit detached from your father, or you have to move to another city and you will not see him as much as you would have in your past years. So this can also be a case when Saturn is transiting your ninth house. There can be some difference in thinking pattern also of you and the elders you have around you. So there can be some generational gaps which can come to surface during this time. Your elders might not be able to understand your future projections. So that can be the case. This is a very tricky time where you can also lose hope and expectation from the divine. But do not do so. Keep up doing the rituals you are doing in your life, the daily prayers you have. Keep a schedule of it. As much as you feel like that they aren't making a change in your life, the change is coming. It will definitely come, but you have to be consistent. Consistency of efforts is the key during this time of Saturn's transit in your ninth house, because it is aspecting the third house, which is equivalent to the effort, to the valor you show to achieve anything. So Saturn, looking at it, demands consistent efforts. That is one thing. You can feel that there is a break of income, or the kind of income you were having previously, it is not equivalent to that. But whatever change is going to happen, it will be good and long term. And the income which you get fixed during this time gonna stay for a longer span of time with you. There can be some issues in the social circle you have. You can enter a fight or a disagreement with a senior. Be very cautious of doing that, because eventually it won't be good for you. Events of physical plane also deeply affect you. The kind of behavior people around you are doing with you during this time will actually change your personality. But avoid being too selfish. You can also expect some financial help from your spouse, but don't depend on them, because as soon as you bank upon your spouse or your family, they will start having some kind of change of mind. So just don't bank upon them, just don't depend on them completely. Take control of your life, but support from them wherever you desire will always be there. So do that. Take the support, just don't be burdening them with your responsibility. You will become deeply contemplative. You will think a lot during this time. And that will actually be very helpful to reshape whatever is coming in the future. Good time to do remedies also for the people of Gemini ascendant. Very good time. You will feel that you are receding from the social circle, but try and make an effort to stay social during this time. You will have some spatial spiritual understanding during this time. You will understand that whatever we call religion, whichever culture we are born in, it is actually global at the root of it. So you will be much more adaptive, much more, very accommodating of people around you. That is the shift which gonna happen in your personal psyche during this transit. And it is always a step better from what you were. Now for Taurus ascendant, Saturn is transiting your 10th house. Time to make big changes before this Saturn transits your 10th house, or otherwise it will make you do so without your will. So be willing of the change that is coming in your life, in your professional front. There will be some support of destiny. Whatever you do, your Kriyaman karma will not fructify as much as your destiny will. So if you have a strong 9th house in your chart, you will have a great stroke of luck during this time. You have to listen to your gut feeling before taking any decision. So do not avoid whatever your inner conscious is telling you, whether it is a materialistic decision or a spiritual one. Listen to your heart. This is the time where all your effort, past years, whatever effort you have done, will fructify in the sphere of your social status, your gains you have going to have even in your family life and your professional life. Both will attain a kind of stability during this time. But there can also be some kind of testing for you, which is waiting in the sphere of your personal life. So the patience you have can be tested by your family members. So be ready to accommodate that in your life. Now, it can also take a toll if you're married, because Saturn is aspecting the 12th house and also the 7th house equally. So you can experience some physical distance from your spouse on the pretext of your occupation or job, or you can, or even your spouse can feel a bit detached in your matters of 12th house and the 7th house. So be extra giving. Try to give your spouse their personal space during this time. If you feel they are getting really aloof and detached, just let them be and find their own peace of mind. Because this time, this transit of Saturn in the 10th house aspecting these particular houses show that there can be a strict shift in the behavior of your partner, in your own behavior towards your partner. So be very watchful for whatever you are enacting with them, however you are behaving with them. Be very watchful of your actions. Otherwise, this transit can give you some kind of undesirable results in your married life if you're already married. Okay. If you are going through a relation and you're trying to culminate into marriage, avoid it for this time period, at least up till when Saturn crosses your ascendant degree. Avoid to take a concrete decision during that time. You can also come to know the true face of the people you are in a relation with. I am trying to say, if you're involved romantically with somebody, you can see a hidden facet of theirs. So be very self-reliant during this time and be your own hero during this time. There can be some bit of false allegation in your work field. So be very cautious. Don't fall into honey traps, or don't fall into some very lucrative looking deals a co-worker might propose. Okay, it can be a trap for you. Be very cautious of it. That is for Taurus ascendant. Now let's go to Aries. Now for Aries, Saturn is transiting in your 11th house. Saturn will again make you revalue the kind of happiness you already have in your life. You will acquire wealth during this time. You can achieve professional preferences during this time. If there is a long pending promotion, you can have that during this time. Great opportunities can come your way, but don't expect it as soon as Saturn transits the 11th house. You have to sit in the examination of Saturn, go out with flying colors and passing marks, then only you can reap the benefits, whatever you have for Saturn transiting the 11th house. There can be a change in your personality. You can completely get a makeover. The way you look, the way you behave in society can totally change by this transit. Like it can be totally outward. Like if a female have really long hair, she can get a sudden urge of going a pixie cut or a short haircut. All right. If there is a man, he can just suddenly feel the urge of having a full grown facial hair, beard, and that kind of a change. Or it can be in your psychology as well. The way you perceive the world can actually mature during this time. You will experience a lot of mature transformation you had in your thinking process during this time. For occupation and business, this would be a good time with certain delays, but ensured results. All right. Again, you have to keep a track of your health, which is very crucial during this transit. Don't be very prejudiced about your friends and circle. Focus on your inner growth during this time. This transit will form the basis of coming years of your life. So be very righteous during this time. Happy experiences, happy travel can be a part of your life during this time. You can take up some hobby which you really cherish. During this time, you can also get interested in changing your everyday routine. You might get more philosophical rather than materialistic. Because you will achieve every materialistic gain, sometimes that kind of fulfillment also make you realize that there is much more than all of this worldly pleasures which I can think about. When a person is relieved from all the accumulation of materialistic things, that is the time when he can actually pay attention to inner growth. Okay. This can be a good time if you are a couple and you're trying to get a child. This is a good time for that. But there can be some complications and you have to see medical care. If you are going to have a baby this time during this transit, if you're already expecting, it can be a cesarean one. So be very careful about that. Be prepared accordingly. All in all, for Aries people, this is the time when your efforts get really goal-oriented and you succeed in everything you take up. This is that time. You will put a lot of emphasis on practicality of your goals rather than just doing an imagination, sitting and just fantasizing about the big bungalow you are trying to earn in your life. You're actually going out and practically making that effort this time by the transit of Saturn in your 11th house. So that is all about the transit of Saturn from my side for all the 12 ascendant. Please understand that the planet of Saturn is all about being a mixed bag of good and bad. That is depending on the perception we have about what is good and bad. So please be prepared. This is a video advisory. And I have given you tips and bits of remedies as well. And this is the energy. If you are able to channelize it, it can turn tables for you. Again, people of Aquarius ascendant, Leo ascendant, Libra will have a transformational journey. People who are having a Saturn return should also be very cautious about the efforts they are making to achieve their goals. That is all. Jai Shri Ram.